Star Academy 7 floated in calm orbit above a bright blue star. From the outside, it looked like a giant silver ring with soft lights shining along its edges. From the inside, it felt like a peaceful home, where students from many planets came to learn, share ideas, and grow together. Hallways were filled with soft hums of machines, gentle walks of many species, and voices speaking in dozens of languages. It was a place where small disagreements rarely happened, and where calm days passed like gentle streams. This calm world changed slightly on the day Lena Ward arrived. Lena was a human girl from Earth. The Galaxy Registry called Earth a Deathworld, a dramatic title given to planets with strong weather, fast creatures, and unpredictable nature. Many students had heard this term before, and even if they didn't understand it fully, they imagined Earth as a place where everything was too intense, too wild, and too strange. So when Lena stepped out of the docking gate with her simple travel bag, quiet eyes, and relaxed steps, she did not match the stories at all. She was small compared to many species, her hair was tied back neatly, her clothes were plain, and her expression was peaceful, almost soft. She didn't walk as if she came from a dangerous place. She walked like she was used to long trips, like she was observing everything with patient curiosity. Some students watched from a distance. "She is from Earth," whispered a tall, silver-furred student named Nivra. "Earth?" replied a blue-feathered friend beside her. "That is the dangerous one, right? The planet with storms and strange creatures?" Nivra nodded, though her eyes stayed on the quiet human girl. "Yes, but she does not look dangerous." Lena, of course, had no idea she was being observed. She simply walked through the station, reading signs, taking in the lights, and enjoying the cool air. Her home planet had thick forests, loud animals, and sharp weather changes. Compared to that, this station felt like a gentle whisper. At that moment, she felt grateful to be here. Her first classroom was Basic Galactic Environment Studies. It was a wide room with soft blue lighting and seats shaped to fit bodies of many kinds. Some chairs were tall, others were wide, others had room for tails or wings. Lena found the human-sized chair and sat quietly. She placed her learning pad on the desk and folded her hands. She looked around without turning her head too quickly, taking in the faces and shapes of her classmates. Some looked familiar from her orientation tour. Some were new, some seemed curious. A few avoided eye contact, unsure about the human girl. Lena did not speak unless spoken to. Her teachers on Earth had always told her that first impressions were important. "Observe before acting," her mentor had said. "Calm makes space for understanding." So she sat calmly. When the class began, Professor Seelan entered. He was a tall being with smooth orange skin and bright white eyes. His voice always sounded like soft wind passing through hollow wood, warm and friendly. "Welcome to your first lesson of the term," he said. "We have students from 12 worlds here today. Let us learn with open minds." His gaze settled on Lena for the briefest moment. Not with fear, not with surprise, but with interest, like someone examining a rare and unexpected flower. Lena gave a small, polite nod. As the lesson continued, Lena listened carefully. She took notes quickly but quietly. She did not push to answer questions. She did not interrupt. When students raised their voices in excitement, she simply sat still and absorbed the information. Her calmness stood out in a room filled with students who spoke with their hands, wings, or antennae. A trio of alien students sitting behind her noticed her quiet behavior. They were a close-knit group from a peaceful planet called Lyro. Lyro was known for soft winds, safe landscapes, and gentle creatures. Its people rarely dealt with surprises or challenges. Because of their easy world, Lyro students sometimes misunderstood quietness as weakness. One of them, A round-faced boy with pale green skin named Tarn leaned closer to whisper, "She does not speak at all. Maybe she is shy." "Maybe she is scared," said the girl beside him, Riva, whose skin shimmered like soft crystals. The third, a long-eared boy named J-Lo, narrowed his eyes. "Or maybe humans are not as strong as people say. Maybe the stories are wrong." They whispered only among themselves. Their words never reached Lena's ears. But their curiosity grew. During the break between classes, students moved to the common lounge. It was a bright area filled with cushioned seats, floating display screens, and small snack tables with foods from many worlds. Lena took a corner seat near a window with a view of distant stars. She pulled out a small book from her bag, not a digital pad, but a real paper book from Earth. The pages were slightly worn from being read many times. On Earth, she had taken long walks through forests, and during those walks, she often read during rest breaks. The book made her feel at home. The moment she opened it, a group of younger students stopped nearby and stared. "What is that?" one of them whispered. "A paper book," said another, eyes wide. "People still use those?" Lena heard them, but she didn't mind. She simply turned a page gently and kept reading. Her calm presence slowly softened their curiosity. They watched her for a moment longer before leaving with quiet excitement, whispering about the strange human book. Later in the day, Lena visited the Academy Garden. It was a peaceful place filled with plants from different worlds, flowers that glowed faintly, vines that hummed softly, and trees with leaves shaped like tiny stars. Lena sat under one of these trees and closed her eyes. She listened. She could hear the soft hum of machines beneath the floor, the swish of air filters, the faint footsteps of students walking by. None of these sounds were loud or dangerous. They were peaceful. Back home, she had learned to sit quietly, even when rainstorms fell hard, or when night creatures called to each other from the forests. Silence was not something she sought. It was something she created inside herself when the world around her was unpredictable. Here, she felt that internal silence expanding with ease. Professor Seelan walked through the garden at that moment. When he saw Lena sitting cross-legged, breathing slowly, he paused. He recognized a trained calmness when he saw it. Humans, he knew, were excellent at adapting. But calmness like hers was not simple. It was the kind that came from years of learning how to stay steady in challenging environments. He made no comment, but he watched for a moment with thoughtful eyes before moving on. The day continued peacefully, until an unexpected moment occurred during her last class. Students were given simple tasks: align hollow shapes, follow patterns, and guide floating orbs through small obstacle rings. These activities tested reaction time and focus. When it was Lena's turn, she moved slowly at first. She observed the floating orb, the rings it needed to pass through, and the pattern of the hololights around it. Then, without rushing, she guided the orb with steady hands. She did not show off. She did not make sudden moves. But the orb flowed through each ring smoothly, almost gracefully, as if guided by invisible threads. When she finished, the room was briefly silent. Even Tarn, Riva, and J-Lo stared. Lena simply stepped back and waited for the next student to begin. She did not notice that her quiet skill had caught the attention of everyone in the room. It was the first small hint that there was more to the quiet girl than anyone expected. At the end of the day, students returned to their dorms. Some chatted excitedly about their classes. Some argued about which cafeteria meal was best. Some shared stories from their home worlds. But Lena walked alone to her room, calm and thoughtful. She knew some students had watched her with curious eyes. She felt their confusion, their questions, their slight misunderstandings, but she did not mind. New places always took time. New friendships took patience. Understanding grew slowly, like roots under the soil. She placed her bag on her bed and looked out her dorm window. The stars were bright, and the station lights shimmered gently. "This place is peaceful," she whispered to herself. She sat on the bed, opened her paper book again, and read quietly until the room lights dimmed. What she didn't know was that this quiet day was only the beginning. Her silence would soon draw more attention. Some of it friendly, some of it confused, some of it from students who did not yet understand that quietness was not a sign of weakness. It was simply a part of her strength, and it would not remain unnoticed for long. The next morning on Star Academy 7 began with its usual calm rhythm. Lights brightened gently across the hallways, machines hummed to life, and the soft chimes signaling the start of the day echoed through the station. Students emerged from their rooms, stretching wings, smoothing fur, adjusting scales, or simply rubbing sleepy eyes. Lena Ward stepped out quietly, her learning pad held close to her chest. She walked with light steps, not rushing, not dragging. Her face held the same peaceful expression she had carried the day before. She looked rested and ready. But even before she reached her first class, she noticed something new. More eyes were watching her. Not in a rude way, not staring, not whispering loudly, but curious, thoughtful, uncertain. Some students smiled politely as she passed. Others blinked at her human features, trying to understand this quiet girl from a world so unlike their own. A few whispered softly to their friends, but their voices were too low for Lena to hear clearly. She simply nodded at those who smiled at her and continued her walk. In the classroom, Tarn, Riva, and J-Lo sat together as always. Their seats were behind the one Lena had chosen on her first day. Today, however, they leaned forward slightly, as though drawn closer by some unseen force. "She arrived early again," Riva whispered, watching Lena place her learning pad gently on the desk. "Maybe humans wake up early," Tarn replied. "Or maybe she can't sleep," J-Lo suggested. "Maybe her planet makes people restless." Riva shook her head. "She looked calm yesterday, not restless at all." Tarn rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Still, she is too quiet, even when we tried to get her attention." J-Lo nodded. "Yes, she didn't react, not even a little." The three exchanged confused looks. They had grown up on Lero, where even the smallest surprises caused excitement. On their home world, calmness came naturally because life was gentle, but when things became unusual, when something didn't fit the pattern, Lero children responded quickly with questions, laughter, or nervous chatter. Lena did none of those things. She simply observed. Class began with Professor Seelan entering the room. His tall figure and calm presence made every student sit straight. His white eyes scanned the classroom briefly before he started the lesson. Today's topic was planetary risk levels. Professor Seelan explained how some worlds were easy to live on, while others required more attention, more training, or more adaptability. He listed examples of low-risk worlds with mild climates and gentle landscapes. Lero was one of those. When he reached the topic of higher-risk planets, some students shifted in their seats. They knew Earth would be mentioned eventually. "As you may know," the professor said, "Earth is considered a death world by old classification systems. This name is dramatic and not entirely accurate in the modern sense. What it means, more simply, is that Earth has strong environments and active ecosystems." Several students glanced toward Lena. Professor Seelan noticed but continued calmly. "This does not mean humans are dangerous. It means they are adaptable. Their bodies and minds are shaped by a world that teaches quick thinking, patience, and resilience." Lena's expression did not change. She had heard such descriptions many times. Earth children learned about their own planet's reputation early on. but Lena had always felt that the word Deathworld sounded far more dramatic than necessary. Meanwhile, Tarn leaned closer to his friends. "So that's why she didn't react," he whispered. "Maybe humans don't get surprised easily. Or maybe they handle surprise differently," Riva whispered back. J-Lo frowned in confusion. "But she didn't even blink when I hit her learning pad." "Maybe that is normal for her," Riva suggested. "Maybe she thinks we are being friendly." Tarn sighed. "We need to understand more. Humans are confusing." Riva nodded. "Very confusing." After class, students moved toward the hallway. Usually the crowds blended together, but today, the path seemed to flow around Lena. Not out of fear, nothing cold or harsh, just curiosity. Students watched how she walked, how she held her books, how calmly she breathed. A small group of first-year students followed her for a few seconds, whispering, "She moves so quietly." "She looks peaceful. She doesn't run around like we do." Lena noticed them, smiled gently, and continued on her way. Their whispers faded, replaced by soft giggles of curiosity and admiration. They ran off toward their next class with bright eyes. Tarn, Riva, and J-Lo watched this happen. "She smiled," Riva said. "She actually smiled." "Yes," Tarn agreed, "but even her smile is calm." "Too calm," J-Lo muttered. The three exchanged looks again. Their confusion only grew. At lunchtime, Lena walked to the cafeteria with her usual unhurried steps. She took a tray and chose a simple meal, a fruit slice, a bread square, and a warm drink that smelled faintly like mint. She found a seat at an empty table near the corner, where she could watch the stars outside the large window. She always liked quiet places where she could eat slowly and peacefully, but today her meal did not stay private. Tarn, Riva, and J-Lo approached with cautious steps. Lena looked up when they reached her table. They stood in a small triangle, unsure of how to begin. Hello?" Tarn said finally. Lena offered a polite smile. "Hello? May we sit with you?" Riva asked. "Of course," Lena replied softly. They sat, Tarn in front of her, Riva on her left, J-Lo on her right. For a moment, none of them spoke. They just watched her eat quietly. Riva broke the silence. "We noticed you are very calm." Lena blinked. "Oh, thank you." "It is not bad," Riva added quickly. "It is just different." Lena nodded gently. "That is fine. Everyone is different." Tarn leaned forward. "Yesterday, when we tried to talk to you, you didn't react much." "Oh," Lena replied. "I thought you were just playing. I didn't want to interrupt the class." "Playing?" J-Lo repeated, puzzled. "Yes," Lena said. "It seemed like you were having fun with each other." The three stared at her. They had expected annoyance, confusion, or at least a raised eyebrow, but Lena had interpreted their behavior as friendly. Her perspective surprised them. "You really did not mind?" Tarn asked. "No," Lena said with a simple shake of her head. "I was focused on the class. I don't get distracted easily." Riva exchanged a quick look with her friends. "Is that normal on Earth?" Lena nodded. "Yes. When I was young, there were many noises around. Birds, animals, weather. If you react to every sound, you get tired. So I learned to stay calm." The trio sat quietly, trying to imagine a world where the environment constantly demanded attention. J-Lo finally spoke. "Your planet sounds difficult." Lena smiled thoughtfully. "It is interesting. There is always something happening. But once you understand it, you learn how to stay steady." Tarn tapped his fingers lightly on the table. "So, that is why you do not react easily?" "Yes," Lena answered. "It is normal for me." Riva leaned her head on her hand. "That explains so much." The three Lero students relaxed, and for the first time they didn't feel confused. They felt curious in a friendly way. Later that afternoon, during their group activity class, the instructor assigned students into small teams for a simple coordination challenge. Each team had to move a soft, glowing sphere across a path filled with gentle, floating shapes. It was meant to test teamwork and communication. Lena, Tarn, Riva, and Jalo were placed in the same group. At first, the three Lero students whispered nervously, "What if we slow her down? What if she is too good at this? What if she thinks we are not helpful?" But when the activity began, Lena surprised them again. She moved slowly, giving them time to adjust. She passed the glowing sphere gently, never rushing or showing impatience. She listened to their ideas even if they weren't sure of themselves. She smiled when they succeeded, and she encouraged them when they needed a moment to coordinate. By the end of the activity, the three Lero students felt lighter. "She is actually very nice," Riva said. "And patient," Tarn added. "And steady," Jalo finished. The trio finally understood that Lena's quiet nature was not strange. It was natural for her. When the final class ended, Lena walked back to her dorm with a calm heart. She sensed that some students now saw her differently, not with confusion, but with growing respect. She didn't think much of it. To her, today had been a peaceful day like any other, but she had no idea how much the small interactions had begun changing the way others saw her. She did not know that her calmness had softened misunderstandings, or that her kindness during the group task had left a warm impression. She simply rested in the quiet evening, unaware that her simple presence was slowly reshaping the atmosphere around her. The curious eyes were no longer just watching her. They were beginning to understand her. The third day at Star Academy 7 began with soft golden lights filling the hallways. Machines hummed quietly, and students from many worlds drifted toward their classes. Some walked, some glided, some floated on gentle energy streams. The station was peaceful as always. Lena Ward moved through the hall with her usual quiet steps. She held her learning pad close and observed the students around her. She noticed that more of them smiled now, and fewer seemed confused. A few even nodded in greeting. Lena returned their nods politely. But as calm as the morning was, something in the air felt different. Not unfriendly, simply new. Almost like a small wave of curiosity that had settled in the halls. Tarn, Riva, and Jalo noticed it too. "She became popular fast," Riva observed as they walked behind her. "Not popular," Tarn corrected. "Just noticed." Jalo crossed his arms. "Everyone wants to see if she is truly calm all the time." Riva nodded. "Most humans I've read about are expressive, but she is so peaceful." The three followed her into the classroom. Their curiosity was still warm, no longer mixed with confusion, but the attention around Lena continued to grow. The morning lesson was a teamwork project. Professor Seelan divided the class into small groups and handed out crystal pads containing instructions. Each group had to build a pattern bridge, a structure made from light shapes that connected one table to another. Lena was grouped with Tarn, Riva, Jalo, and a fourth student named Solon, a quiet girl from a cloud world. The teacher explained, "This activity tests coordination, patience, and timing. Remember to communicate clearly." Students quickly began their work, forming shapes from light crystals and placing them into the structure. Some groups moved fast and loud, speaking over each other. Others moved slowly, double-checking each step. Lena's group started well. She held the crystal pieces gently, placing them with steady movements. Tarn helped by aligning the shapes so they fit neatly. Riva timed the placement of each piece. Jalo adjusted the angle. Solon kept count of the pattern. For a moment, everything flowed smoothly. But then, something shifted. Another group nearby, one known for playful behavior, noticed the quiet human girl at the center of the bridge-building activity. The students from that group were clever, energetic, and sometimes too curious for their own good. They didn't mean harm. They simply enjoyed pushing boundaries to see how people reacted. One of them, a slim boy named Ferry, tilted his head. "Hey," he whispered to his teammate, "look at the human girl. She doesn't react to anything." His teammate nodded. "Maybe she can't be surprised. Maybe she just hides it." Ferry grinned. "Let's test it." He didn't intend anything serious, just a little joke, a playful distraction, something small to see if Lena would finally break her calm expression. He walked over casually and pretended to accidentally nudge the edge of their work table. Not enough to knock anything down, but enough to make the light pieces wobble dangerously. Tarn gasped softly. Riva froze. J-Lo reached out to steady the pieces. Lena's hands moved instantly, but gently. She stabilized the crystal structure without panic, her face calm and focused. She placed one hand on the bridge and the other on the table. Nothing fell. Nothing cracked. Nothing wobbled. Then she stepped back quietly. "Careful," she said with a small smile. "The structure is delicate." Her voice wasn't sharp. It wasn't annoyed. It was simple and kind, almost unexpectedly kind. Ferry blinked. He had expected surprise, maybe frustration, maybe confusion. But Lena was steady. Sorry," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "Didn't see the edge there." Lena nodded. "It's okay." Then she returned to her task as though nothing unusual had happened. Tarn, Riva, and J-Lo stared. Solon whispered, "She moved so fast," but still calm. Their moment of shock didn't go unnoticed. Other students in the room saw the quiet human calmly fixing the nearly disrupted bridge. They exchanged whispers, not in a rude way, but with curiosity. She reacted so smoothly. She didn't panic. She didn't even frown. Professor Seelan also noticed. He paused near their group and watched Lena for a moment. His white eyes were thoughtful. He understood that her calmness came from more than personality. It came from training, experience, and natural adaptation to her homeworld. He made a note on his pad and moved on. The project continued, but now, attention shifted even more toward Lena's group. Ferry returned to his own table, but curiosity still sparkled in his eyes. His teammates whispered questions at him. What happened? Did she get upset? Did she jump? Ferry shook his head. No. She fixed it before it fell? His teammates exchanged wide-eyed looks. Meanwhile, Lena's group resumed their work. They completed the bridge faster than expected, and their structure glowed softly with a beautiful blend of blue and silver lights. Even Professor Seelan paused to admire it. Well done, he said. Your teamwork was quiet, but effective. Riva beamed. Tarn smiled. J-Lo felt proud. Lena simply nodded politely. But this peaceful moment did not last long. Ferry and two students from his group approached again, not out of cruelty, not even out of jealousy, only fueled by pure curiosity. Hey, Ferry said in a light voice. You didn't even blink earlier. How did you stay so calm? Lena turned to him. I didn't want the bridge to fall. Riva added quickly. She is just steady. We were all worried, but she wasn't. Ferry waved his hands. No, I'm not teasing. I'm just impressed. Most people would have panicked. Lena thought for a moment. She didn't want to sound strange or exaggerate, so she gave the simplest answer she could. Earth has many things that move fast, she explained. If you get startled too easily, you get tired. So I learned to focus. Ferry blinked. Your planet trains you to stay calm? Lena smiled softly. In a way, yes. The room grew quiet for a moment as other students listened without meaning to. Her words carried calmly across the space. A planet that taught calmness through nature itself? That impressed them far more than any dramatic story ever could. After lunch, the next class involved a pattern puzzle challenge. Students received a small box that projected shifting patterns. The task was to follow the rhythm and match the shapes before they changed again. It required quick thinking and patience. Lena worked quietly. Her eyes followed the shapes with steady focus. Her fingers moved smoothly, pressing symbols and sliding pieces with calm precision. She didn't rush. She didn't hesitate. But she finished early, not because she hurried, but because she stayed consistent. She simply did not waste energy on reacting to the changing shapes. She watched, understood, and moved. Her puzzle glowed with a soft green light, signaling completion. Students around her paused. She finished already? But she didn't move fast. How did she solve it so smoothly? Tarn's eyes widened. She makes everything look easy. Professor Seelan noticed again. He approached her desk slowly. Lena, he said gently. How did you approach the puzzle? Lena looked up. I just followed the pattern. With no rush? He asked. She tilted her head slightly. It wasn't rushing. The pattern moved at normal speed. The professor nodded. Thank you. He walked away smiling thoughtfully. It became clear to him that Lena's quiet strength was not something dramatic. It was natural, and it came from upbringing, not competition. But not everyone understood this yet. Near the end of the day, while students packed their things, a small misunderstanding occurred. Ferry's classmates encouraged him once more. Try talking to her again. Ask her something surprising. Maybe she'll react this time. They meant no harm. They simply wanted to see something unexpected from Lena, who seemed almost impossible to surprise. So Ferry approached her once more, but this time a little too quickly. He stepped in front of her path and waved his hands with a loud, "Hey, Lena!" It wasn't aggressive, it wasn't scary, just sudden. Many students would have jumped. Lena did not. She simply stopped, blinked once, and said, "Hello, Ferry." Ferry froze. That's it? He asked. Yes, she replied, waiting politely for him to move aside. He stepped back, stunned. You don't get surprised at all? Lena gave a small smile. Sometimes I do, but not by things like this. Tarn, Riva, and J-Lo exchanged glances. They weren't the only ones watching. More students gathered quietly, curious but not hostile, waiting to understand this mysterious calm. This was the moment when many of them realized something important. Lena's silence was not weakness. Her calmness was not fear. Her stillness was not lack of emotion. It was strength. A strength they were only beginning to understand. And soon they would learn just how deep that strength went. The next morning on the Harmony station felt different. The large halls were still filled with students from many worlds, and the lights still shone with their soft blue glow, but there was a new calmness in the air. It was a calmness that almost felt like silent respect, and it followed Mira everywhere she went. She did not ask for it. She did not look for it. And she did not even fully understand why it was there. But she felt it, like a soft breeze at her back. Mira walked through the center hall, holding her small study tablet close to her chest. She moved the way she always did. Quiet steps, steady breathing. Eyes gently scanning the floor as if she was more used to watching her own shadow than the faces of others. Yet many eyes followed her now. Not in fear, not in mockery, but in quiet curiosity and something close to admiration. After the events of the previous day, news traveled fast. Students whispered, teachers raised their brows, and even the robotic assistants replayed their security footage in confusion. They all saw the same thing, a gentle human girl showing calm strength in the middle of chaos. She did not shout, she did not panic, and she did not allow anyone to feel embarrassed. She simply acted with clarity and kindness. Most of all, her words to the group of alien bullies, the ones who had misunderstood her stillness, were spreading across the station. She had told them that peace was not weakness. Patience was not fear, and silence was not surrender. It was something many students had never heard expressed in such simple and honest terms. Because of all this, Mira found herself in a new kind of spotlight. But even so, she stayed the same. She walked quietly, she sat quietly, and she kept her thoughts steady, as if she was still living on her old home planet, the place others called a Deathworld, though she had always simply called it Earth. However, she noticed something new when she reached her first class of the day. It was a lesson on interspecies cooperation, taught by Professor Halroon, a tall, insect-like being with bright orange eyes and a soft voice. Usually, Mira sat in the far corner, unnoticed by most. But today, there was an empty space beside her desk, as if someone had saved it for her. That had never happened before. Mira hesitated for a moment, wondering if she had walked into the wrong classroom by mistake. She checked her tablet. The number on the door was correct. She took a slow breath and sat down, placing her things neatly on the desk. A few seconds later, someone approached. When Mira looked up, she expected to see one of the bullies. Instead, she saw Talon, a tall and shy, crystal-skinned student who rarely spoke to anyone at all. Talon paused at the desk, looking nervous. His crystalline hands glowed faintly, a sign of uncertainty. Hello, he said in a soft voice that sounded like wind passing through glass. May I sit here? No one had ever asked Mira that before. The kindness in the question warmed her. Yes, she replied gently. You can sit. Talon sat quickly as if relieved. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Mira respected silence, and Talon seemed to appreciate the space. They both prepared their learning tools quietly. When class began, Professor Halroon looked around the room with bright eyes. Today, he announced, we will discuss what true cooperation means. Not agreement, not similarity, but cooperation. As he spoke, he paced slowly, his many thin legs making soft tapping sounds on the floor. Cooperation, he continued, is built when individuals learn to understand one another, not through loudness, but through shared moments of patience. A few students shifted in their seats. Everyone knew what he was referring to. Without mentioning names, the professor's message clearly connected to yesterday's situation. Mira felt her cheeks warm. She did not like attention, especially when it came in indirect forms like this. But she remained calm. Professor Halroon's eyes finally rested on Mira, not in a way that singled her out, but in a way that showed he appreciated her presence. Mira, he said in his gentle tone, yesterday you demonstrated something very special. Would you like to share your thoughts on cooperation? The class turned to look at her. Many students seemed curious, and none seemed unkind. Still, Mira's heart tapped once, nervousness brushing against her calm nature. She placed her hands on her lap and spoke slowly. Cooperation begins when people listen, even if they do not agree, even if they do not understand. Listening helps everyone stay calm. Her voice remained steady, not loud, not forceful, just honest. In my home, she continued, listening helped us stay safe and stay together. It helped us solve problems without hurting anyone, so I try to do that here too. The classroom grew quiet. Some students nodded. Some looked thoughtful. A few quietly scribbled notes. Mira did not think her words were special, but the way the room softened told her they mattered. When class ended, something unexpected happened. Students began approaching her one by one. Not in a crowd, not in excitement, but in gentle waves. One student, a small round creature with fur like soft moss, rolled forward and bowed slightly. Thank you for your words, it said. You helped the atmosphere feel peaceful. Another, a tall reptilian student with calm golden eyes, spoke next. Your actions yesterday taught me something. I want to be better at listening. Mira answered each one with quiet kindness. She did not smile too widely or speak too loudly. She simply responded with sincerity. She began to understand that people were not treating her differently because they feared her. They were treating her differently because they respected her calm nature. That was new to her. Later, during her midday break, she went to the quiet observation deck. It was a place she loved, with large windows that showed the soft glow of nearby stars. The station floated near a cluster of nebula clouds, creating beautiful colors that shaped the sky like painted swirls. Mira sat on a bench and looked out. She enjoyed this space because it helped her breathe slowly, the way she had learned to do during difficult times on Earth. She didn't need noise or excitement. Stillness was enough. Footsteps gently approached from behind. Mira looked up to see Liran, the leader of the group that had misunderstood her yesterday. This time, however, his expression was calm and respectful. His two friends stood behind him, but none of them looked uneasy. "May we sit?" Liran asked. Mira nodded politely, and they sat on the bench across from her. "We want to say something," Liran began. "Yesterday, we did not understand you. We thought your silence meant you did not care. But today, we watched how everyone sees you now, and, well, we understand better." Mira listened without interrupting. Her eyes stayed soft and her posture relaxed. "We want to learn from you," Liran said, "not because we fear you, but because you showed us something important." "You showed us that calmness is strong," another added quietly. Mira lowered her gaze slightly. She appreciated their words, even if attention made her shy. "Thank you," she said gently. "I did not want anyone to feel bad. I only want this place to be peaceful." Liran nodded. "We feel the same, and we want to make things right." Mira believed them. Their voices held honesty, and their eyes did not show pride or stubbornness. Only sincerity. The four of them sat together in calm silence, watching the stars. It was a quiet moment, but a meaningful one. Sometimes peace did not require words. Sometimes sitting together without tension could build understanding stronger than any speech. Suddenly, Talon arrived. He paused when he saw the group, unsure if he was interrupting something. "You can join," Mira said kindly. Talon sat beside her, and the bench felt full but comfortable. The unusual mix of students, ones who used to be distant or unsure, now shared space without discomfort. A soft glow from the nebula outside reflected on everyone's faces. It felt like the universe was watching, peaceful and patient. In that moment, Mira realized something important. She had not changed herself to fit this place. Instead, her gentle nature had slowly influenced those around her. Not through force, not through arguments, but through steady kindness. Her quiet strength had become a guiding light. Not loud, not bright, but gentle and steady, like a small lantern in a calm night. And the others followed that light willingly. Mira did not feel like a Deathworld girl anymore, at least not in the way others once meant it. She felt like a bridge, someone who brought calm into a busy world. Little did she know, this was only the beginning. Soon, the whole station would rely on that strength in ways none of them expected. The Harmony Station entered a new week with its usual peaceful glow, drifting softly through space like a shimmering lantern. Students of all shapes, colors, and worlds moved through the long halls, attending their classes and chatting with friends. Yet there was something different now, something almost invisible but deeply felt. People walked with a little more patience. Conversations carried a softer tone. Groups from different worlds mixed more easily, as if a barrier had quietly dissolved. And at the center of this new quiet harmony stood Mira, the girl from Earth who never raised her voice, but somehow touched every heart around her. She did not see herself as special. She still sat in the same quiet corners, walked the same calm steps, and spent her free moments watching the stars from the observation deck. But the station seemed to understand her now, and for the first time, she felt like she belonged. One early morning, while the station lights were still in their gentle dawn mode, Mira headed toward her environmental science class. She held a warm cup of herbal tea, enjoying the soft steam rising from it. Her steps were slow, not because she was tired, but because she liked the silence before the rush of the day. As she reached the main hall, she noticed something unusual. A soft ringing sound echoed across the station. Not an alarm, not a warning, just a notification tone that signaled an upcoming announcement. Students stopped walking, turning their eyes to the nearby screens that lined the walls. A calm voice spoke through the speakers. "Attention, students and staff. This is Administrator Orion. Please gather in the Central Assembly Hall for an important message." The voice sounded peaceful, but the message had a hint of seriousness. Mira placed her teacup on a bench and joined the others moving toward the assembly hall. Talon walked beside her, his crystal skin shining softly. Liren and his friends followed close behind. They all felt the same curious concern. When they entered the assembly hall, Administrator Orion stood on a raised platform. He was a tall being with silver-blue skin and gentle eyes. He rarely called meetings unless something meaningful was happening. He waited for everyone to settle before speaking. "Thank you for assembling so quickly," he said. "I want to share something important regarding the last few days." A soft hum of quiet voices passed through the hall. Mira kept her hands folded in front of her, steady and attentive. Administrator Orion continued. "Our station has always valued peace and cooperation. But recently we faced moments of confusion and misunderstanding between certain groups. These moments could have grown into bigger problems, but they did not." The room fell completely silent. "Why?" he asked, letting the question hang gently in the air. "Because one student chose calm over panic, patience over frustration, honesty over pride." Mira's heart tapped once, then twice. She felt every eye turning toward her even before Orion spoke her name. "That student is Mira of Earth." A soft wave of surprise filled the hall, surprise mixed with respect, admiration, and warmth. Mira felt her cheeks grow warm, but she stayed composed. She did not like being noticed, yet she understood that this moment was not about praise. It was about something much more important. Administrator Orion smiled kindly. "Mira, you helped guide this station back into harmony simply by being who you are. Your quiet strength reminded everyone that peace begins with listening. It continues with understanding, and it grows with patience." Mira's gaze lowered slightly. She didn't know what to say. She didn't even know if she needed to say anything. Orion continued, "Because of your example, we are starting a new program here at Harmony Station. A program focused on peaceful problem-solving, listening skills, and emotional balance. And we want you, Mira, to be the guiding voice of this effort." Mira blinked softly. Her hands relaxed at her sides. She had never imagined such a responsibility. Talon leaned closer and whispered, "You can do it. You already changed so much." Liren nodded too. "We will help you. You don't have to do anything alone." Their support gave Mira quiet strength. She lifted her head and met Orion's eyes. "I will try my best," she said softly. "And that," Orion replied warmly, "is more than enough." The assembly ended with calm applause. Not loud, not overwhelming, but gentle and sincere, the kind that felt like warm sunlight. The new program begins. Over the next few days, Mira helped shape the new program. She suggested simple breathing exercises for students during times of stress. She recommended calm listening sessions for groups that struggled to understand one another. She even shared some peaceful habits from Earth, Small things like focusing on one's heartbeat or sitting quietly under soft lighting. Students attended these sessions with curiosity. Some came out of interest, others out of need, and a few simply because they admired the calm girl who helped the station so much. Mira never stood on a stage or spoke loudly. Instead, she guided small groups in quiet rooms with gentle lights and comfortable seats. She taught them using simple words. When we listen, we build understanding. When we stay calm, we see solutions more clearly. When we show patience, we help others feel safe. The sessions began spreading across the station. It became normal to see groups practicing mindful breathing in the halls or sitting together quietly before exams. Teachers noticed the improvement. Students felt more comfort and less worry. The station grew warmer and more united. But Mira did not let this attention change her. She still preferred the observation deck during her free time. She still enjoyed silent tea mornings. She still walked with soft steps and spoke in gentle tones. Her steady nature remained untouched. A moment that tested everyone. One afternoon, several days after the program began, the station faced a small but troubling challenge. A visiting group of young trainees from another world arrived earlier than expected. They were energetic, curious, and a little overwhelmed by the large station. Their excitement created confusion in the halls. Some local students felt pushed aside. Others misread the energy as impatience. A few misunderstandings began growing like tiny sparks. Administrator Orion quickly noticed the rising tension. He sent a quiet request to Mira. She arrived in the central courtyard where students from both groups stood, looking unsure of how to speak to one another. The air was thick, not with anger, but with misunderstanding and nervousness. Mira walked forward slowly. Her presence alone created a calm hush. She did not scold anyone. She did not take sides. She simply spoke with the same soft honesty that everyone had come to trust. "This station welcomes everyone," she said gently. "Sometimes new places feel confusing. Sometimes new people feel different. But we can understand each other if we listen first." She turned toward the visiting trainees. "If you feel excited, that is okay. This place is big and full of wonders." Then she faced the local students. "If you feel unsure, that is okay too. New faces can feel unexpected." Finally, she smiled softly. "Let us start by introducing ourselves. One by one. No hurry." Her suggestion seemed simple, but it changed everything. Each student shared a name, a small fact about their world, or a small hope for their time on the station. Laughter began mixing with calmness. The sparks of confusion disappeared. Talon whispered to Liran. She did it again. Liran smiled. It's just who she is. The station's quiet heart. Later that evening, Mira returned to the observation deck. She sat in her favorite corner seat, watching the bright stars shimmer softly against the darkness of space. The nebula clouds moved like slow-dancing colors. Soon, she heard footsteps. Talon, Liran, and the others joined her, sitting quietly nearby. They didn't speak at first. They didn't need to. The silence felt warm. "You helped the station again," Liran finally said. Mira looked at him gently. "I didn't do much." "You did exactly what we needed," Talon replied. Mira folded her hands together. "I only try to help everyone feel calm." "And that," Liran said softly, "is your strength." Mira turned back to the stars. Her eyes reflected the soft lights. She felt no pride, no pressure, only peace. She had learned something important. Strength did not need to be loud. Leadership did not need to shout. Power did not need to push. Sometimes the strongest person in the room was the one who remained steady when everyone else felt lost. Sometimes the quietest person held the greatest heart. Harmony Station had changed her life, but she had changed it too. Gently, softly, in the way only she could. And as long as the stars continued to shine, Mira knew she would keep bringing peace wherever she went. She was the quiet girl from a world others called dangerous. But to them now, she was the calm center of a bright and gentle universe.